Welcome to The Naked Truth. And now, your host, Bridget Barclay.
Good evening, America, and a very good early morning to us in England here, and a good morning and a hello to all of you awakened ones. Right, today we have part 2 of the lovely Katie Paige is back with us, which I'm really excited about, and we are ladies that do like to chat, so just go along with the flow with it all and all of our high strangeness stories. So Katie, I'm going to lead Katie in. Katie is no stranger to high strangeness. If you go back to part 1, you'll hear all about her high strangeness as she lived and for a short while at Rocky Mountain Ranch. She has written a book called Crafts, Cattle, Cryptoids and Cover-Ups. And is very good friends with the late Leo Sprinkler. And I have to say, what I love about Katie is her enthusiasm, her experiences, and the fact that she has recorded pretty much everything. And I know that that's a part of what I've done as well. I've just documented everything from the very beginning. And I do say for people to do this. So Katie has been, she's with Rocky Mountain Ranch Research, which I'm going to talk about because I'd like to ask her a few questions as well, and everyone else can ask her a few questions. She's been on all of the History channels beyond Skinwalkers, UFO Gaia. She's just told me that she's just been on Gaia as well again with George Noory and Ancient Aliens, Small Town Monsters and the Trail of UFOs. And Ron James's film Accidental Truth. Katie, are you there, please?
How you doing, Bridget?
How are you doing? Good to be back. Oh, it's so nice. Right, we are ladies that like to chat. So without further ado, I shall went through and listened to us earlier, and my God, there were so many things that I just want to pick out from the conversations that that we didn't finish, that are really important, that for people that are either coming into this field or people that have had these experiences can just maybe tap and ask more, or go to your site and ask you questions, because now's the time to ask questions to experiences, because it's crazy out there, as we know, and none of us have the answers. So how have you been since I last spoke to you, and have you had many more experiences, and how are you going through this lovely awakening that we're all going through?
I've been well. You know, I think after we talked, I think my mother had just recently passed. Is that correct? Or was that right before that? I don't remember.
Oh my
So,
gosh, Katie, it must have been before that, my
it was
love. Oh, I'm
before.
so
Yeah.
sorry.
No. She was 92, and you know, it was just time. She lived a wonderful life, and she had not a good quality of life, but I had some unusual things around that. And now I'm
Okay.
like transitioning into I had some experiences that I'm like, okay, Mom, you're around, you transitioned on the other side. It was really reassuring. So recently I find myself like, where'd you go now? Because it's kind of quieted down. So you wonder, like,
Wow.
we all have so many questions about what happens, like the big questions of life, right? So been dealing with that, but you know, that be it. Yeah. And of course, you know, I wanted to shout out for all of those here in the United States that are on the East Coast, Florida. We have a big hurricane headed that way. I think it makes landfall either late tonight or tomorrow. So I just want to wish everybody out there, I hope you all stay safe for this big hurricane. But yeah, doing really well.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy you had me back on, because like you said, there's just so many things, you know, to finish up and kind of tie up.
Well, yeah. Well, funny enough, one of my questions was actually how you've just started about your mum passing away and having experiences of a different kind with your mum. Weirdly, I have, but weirdly, I was at a Hull conference 2 weeks ago now, and Whitley Schreiber was there talking about his wife and the experiences that he's been having with her since she's passed away.
Oh, wow.
And I could totally resonate with that, totally, because my mum comes to me in various different forms. And when we last spoke on part 1, we both said, because we've both been there with the ghosts and with the beings. They are the same, but you can totally tell the different vibration of them. Now, let's go another level now. Let's talk about your mum. Let's talk about my mum as well. When they've passed away, you're now questioning, oh, hang on a minute, because we know that there is a realm that they can connect with us.
Right.
And we know that the beings connect with us that way. And we know ghosts connect that way. But the transition that you're having with your mum and I have with my mum is highly spiritual, highly personal. And also, obviously, when you're having an experience, it's very personal. But I'm putting it more on more of my mum on the pedestal of like the being side now, because it's so like different, vibrationally different. So would you mind just going into that a little bit more? Would you mind?
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. For me, here in the United States, we had a show called One Day at a Time. So growing up at, pretty early on, like age 5, it was just my big sister, me and my mom. So it was the 3 girls, right?
Okay.
And during the turn, we had a tumultuous up and down kind of relationship, right? And she had trauma in her life as well, dealt with a lot in her life. It was very cathartic for my sister and I at her service to kind of it was very personal. I mean, it was a small gathering. I think the older we get, it's kind of, the family and all that. So we kind of like, okay, there's a lot of healing that goes on when people pass in your life, right? I mean, families can be extremely dynamic, and I think they challenge us the most. At least that's been my experience, right? Our closest people in our lives challenge us the most. So there's been some of that. And then the other interesting thing is, even when my father passed in 96, I felt him around and had some very paranormal things around that, and my sister did not. And we've always had that kind of, my sister's 6 years older. We have experienced unusual things, especially on the ranch. But when it comes to the more ghostly, supernatural kind of things, I think she likes keeping the door closed a little bit. So what happened when my mother passed, it was very interesting. Number one, I was happy she was not alone when she passed. My niece and my sister were there with her, which was wonderful. So she had a very peaceful passing. But then, fast forward about 4 weeks, my middle son, Jesse, came up with his girlfriend up here in the mountains where I live in Colorado. And we were just sitting on the back porch, and I have a string of LED lights, and they come 12 lights on a string. And we're just sitting out there enjoying the beautiful evening. And all of a sudden, 5 of the lights, not 6, not like half the strand, but only 5, just started doing these colors. And at first I thought maybe it was something messing like a short in the light or something, where it was on like some sort of setting. So I'm like, is this on a music setting or what? But then I started like having this
on a clapper.
On a clapper. Anyway, and it wasn't. And so I said this, I'm like, Mom, if this is something intelligent, can you just flash them all one solid color? And they just went all flashed red. Right. So then I started having this, and it was 4 of us there. We're all witnessing this. What's funny, nobody thought to take movies or pictures, right? So we're having this like 4-minute conversation. Yeah. But then fast forward the weekend after, we're watching a movie. The blinds were down. I kind of have those see-through kind of blinds. And I was seeing the light change. And I thought there was lightning out the window in the distance. I pull it up. Those same 5 lights were flashing. So I'm like, get your phone. I had it recorded. I should have thought to send it to you, but I'll send it to you. But I had this back and forth with my mom where she was flashing them a solid red. I'm like, I won't ask you again. Flashed them red. I'm like, do you know we're taking a trip to Virginia? Flashed them white. It's like she was answering on cue. Right?
So it's like Stranger Things.
It was like Stranger Things. It was just like that. And now I feel like a crazy person because I'm like, Mom, are you there? And I'm looking at the lights for some flash, but it only happened the 2 times. The second time we captured it, and I'm glad we did. But it's one of those things, I haven't even shared this with my sister yet, because I don't want her to like, if she hasn't experienced things. So I guess what I'm getting at is like, why does that happen for some of us? Am I manifesting the lights to flash? And I've tried that. I'm like, okay, is this just me? Like, wanting the bad to know she's okay, that's why this is happening, and it doesn't happen for other people, because then it gets into that, well, like, why is Mom talking to you and not me, or why did Dad talk to you and not me? And so that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now. And it wasn't just me, but some of my kids are all adults now. They're range in age from 22 to 39. So I have 5.
What? You're not. What? Hang on a minute. Let's see your passport. Let's check your age out. Hang on, my girlfriend.
Okay. I know. When I talk about the ranch of the 70s, I'm like, that kind of gives away my age. But yeah, I even have 2 grandkids that I just adore. But it's interesting watching, all my children, and some of them experience some things and some of them don't. It's so personal, like you mentioned, Bridget. It's such a personal journey, and there's healing that goes on with it, and conversations you have with your departed loved ones. And you hope, at least for me, I hope that on the other side things are healed and people get better. And then when they disappear and nothing's happening with the lights anymore, I'm like, well, where'd you go? Are you reincarnating? Are you resting? Or what's going on? I don't know. So many questions.
They will be back. And who's David Sedaris? He also, with his wife that passed away, he's having communication with her through his frequency and sounds that he does, and he gets lots of messages. So when I was listening to Whitley, it really, really touched home how. Well, because it's so did you have a connection with your mum to do with like fairy lights or Christmas lights, putting them up? Were you ever the person to hang them up? Mum let you do that first, or was there a connection to that maybe?
And not so much lights, but we did talk a lot. I mean, my mom was very open to all this and very interested. Like she, you'd go see her at the nursing home and that she'd always have Ancient Aliens on, and she was very curious. And she experienced stuff at the Rocky Mountain Ranch. So I told her, like, when you pass, Mom, like, you're not going to scare me. Like, let me know you're okay. Let me know you're on the other side. And she certainly did that, So, but nothing that I can think of with lights specifically. But
I think now, when you've got that communication, you've got to keep it actively open. And believe me, once that connection is made that way, it will stay. My mum's keeps doing it, and I know that my dad's passed away as well, and I don't have that strong connection with my dad, and I know that I need to push a little bit more to open that invite for my dad. But my mum, it's just absolutely blatant, and that's a different route to go down and think of that maybe not many people have thought of. Obviously, we can talk about the near-death experiences that people have, and them coming back and seeing themselves like a bit like remote viewing and see it is all connected. So that's why I'm thinking spirit world for our past ones is really high up there, big time. Obviously you've got different realms, as we all know, in different spirits, different things, and the negatives and the positives. But our past ones that have passed away are really up high to be able to communicate with that much amount of energy to manifest things. My mum's manifested things right in front of my very eyes for me. I mean, it's unbelievable, because I asked my mum, manifest it, Mum, and then boom. And I'm just not going to go into it all, but I think that's really important, Katie, to just keep that actively, thinking about her and the lights and keep doing it. And also, you did say that you live behind NORAD as well, so you've got them tinkling with you as well, haven't you? Maybe. Right. I did put that down as a question, so that's bloody brilliant that you've come up with that, because I said, yeah, wow, okay, right. So perspectives on all of this. Then another thing that I'd like to really ask you about, because we spoke about the Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch book, and you touched a very little bit on the new Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, that you had read it, and I hadn't read it yet, and I do need to read it, because you, as an investigator, you must walk into various situations. So from high strangeness, from ghosts to the paranormal, when you go into these investigations, are you experiencing that with these people as well? When you've gone back, let's say you've gone back to the ranch again, because you did for the TV show, right? So what were you experiencing?
Again, it's interesting because it happened the height of the activity, like where Linda Moulton Howe got her start, it was really active. So I didn't know what I was getting back into when I went
Okay.
back all these. I didn't know, A, is it still active? Are the people living there for 30 plus some years, are they experiencing things? And if so, is it similar to what we experienced? I did not live on the ranch full time. I visited. My mom was dating the gentleman, and I'm happy for that. And I
Yeah.
believe that's why I'm able to research like I am, because the boys and the ones that did live there full time, all the adults that lived there have since passed, including my mom now. She was the last one to go. But the kids that live there full time, they've moved out of state, and they don't want to, they're just like, I think they're scarred for life from it. And I think because I was kind of removed from having that constant exposure and fear, that kind of gave me that curiosity and maybe that distance where I felt okay. But going back there for the first time, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how I would feel. And actually, my reaction to the place, number one, I was mostly curious if it felt the same way, because that sense of always being watched, that kind of heaviness, where you know what I'm talking about when you go into a
The
highly haunted place.
situation. Yeah.
It just feels different. And it's a very malleable, I mean, I could feel it, right? And so I was curious if that was still like that, and it certainly was. But I also felt very empowered going back. Things are still happening. I think we talked about it a little bit, that being on that show kind of opened the door in meeting other people that live in the area, and learning that the place is still active in multiple ways. And I have an interview coming up in the next few weeks with a gentleman that has a ranch very close to the Rocky Mountain Ranch, and he's experienced some unbelievable things. But interestingly enough, he doesn't tie it to extraterrestrials or aliens or UFOs. It's all in the spirit realm, right? So that'll be an interesting kind of thing to feel out, how our perspectives on what we're dealing with can alter the phenomena itself, right? Some people will say this and UFOs and aliens, and other people will say it's, uncles, grandparents, or paranormal in nature. So that'll be an interesting interview.
So, okay, from that gentleman and from your experience, and I'm thinking in my head, my experiences, where do you think then? Do you think it's, like well, it's complicated, isn't it? Like
Right, yeah.
our parents are now turned into our guides. We are a part of them because we're still alive and we're connecting to them. Or is it like a higher, or are they have their eyes stretched so wide open that they see absolutely everything? I mean, the first thing, this is crazy for me to even say this, but I've said this to those people. When my mum passed away, I just said, thank God. I said, thank God that my mum now can see what I witnessed, or what I have witnessed with her, with my memories being, sort of like being sent up to her, because she couldn't get her head around it. So I think there's a massive connection between our past ones and communicating with beings. It's crazy. I don't know. It's a bit like, we know that Sasquatch and UFOs go together. It's just like totally. I feel now we're hearing from what you've said, how we started off the conversation, because I wanted that to be my thing on to ask you, and you bloody well said it the first sentence. Yes. Yeah, exactly, girlfriend. But there needs to be more research in all of that. And I think you said that Leo, on your last interview that we had together, Leo did put something together. Was it called PAX?
It was PAX.
Okay.
Right.
Tell me a little bit.
Yeah, PAX is talking with, and he was really well known. He was a psychologist at University of Laramie in Wyoming. And he was not only into hypnosis and hypnotized a lot of experiencers, but he was also very interested in like past life regression and past lives. So I found that interesting too. And he also would channel. So he channeled my daughter and stuff when we went down there. But he saw a pattern with experiencers, which he came up with that acronym PAX. So, and it's kind of like and I think we covered it last time. And it's kind of like this journey that a lot of us find ourselves on, with early contact, and then kind of follows us in our 30s and 40s, and then we get into this where we're gobbling up all the information, and then we finally get to this stage where we're the sharing and teaching and being there for others, which to me is my favorite part, right?
Right.
But what I was going to say about Leo, and with the Rocky Mountain Ranch, I think it's even more convoluted, because you touched on, the paranormal side of things, and you brought in, the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon book, which really talks about this hitchhiker phenomenon, which to me, a lot of that is more paranormal in nature. A lot of what Leo did, he touched on a lot of the paranormal things. And then also at the Rocky Mountain Ranch, you have to throw in that MK Ultra military side of it as well, and what was going on with that. And just recently, in reading the Apple report for the 100th time, and isn't it interesting? Have you found this, that you can research something and read something over and over and over, and it's almost as if you're blind to certain parts of it until you're ready to see it or hear it. Or, isn't that weird? And that happened again. Yeah,
it's always shown at the right time when you really need it. You'll just bypass it, and then boom, it's right in front of your face. And excuse me, I've read that God knows how many times. Sorry, Race.
Right. Not right. Yeah, no, that just happened to me again. Just like where John at the ranch talks about this illegal LSD, and he did
I miss that conversation?
So he's with the Air Command, started in San Francisco, MK Ultra stuff. I go do this interview after Contact in the Desert with a family who has, ex-CIA in their family, and they talk about this FM drug that they were experimenting with, freaking magic, right? And in that report, he talks about that. But then just the other day, I'm reading it again for the 100th time. And in there, he's talking about
then it connects and clicks.
It connects because he's talking about the fear and the children and how fearful everybody was at the ranch. And he goes, that same fear can be injected into people. And I'm like, that's MK Ultra stuff again, right? And how did I miss that? They're talking about injections of fear.
Yeah, and also if you go back to part 1, we spoke, and I said to you about Eve Longren. She wrote a book called Love Bite Scenario, where basically they put experiences together physically, like relationship wise, and they are basically feeding off that energy, like that confusion after an experience, and that fear, and that energy goes up and it goes out to them. They're bottling it, storing it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
There's so many things in this world that are not good, right?
I know, right?
I don't even want to go down that road, but things that happen to our children and all that. I mean, what I question, like, what is the purpose of this, right? Is somebody bottling that up? That adrenaline, the fear and all that. And were they looking at that in our military, like the super soldiers, and inducing hallucinations and all that? So that's a whole other part of the ranch research and stuff. And then you add the paranormal, like hitchhikers, and then you add just, what's paranormal in nature, what's ET in nature, and it's this whole ball of confusion.
We're going to go into a break in a minute, but the thing is, the difference is, because you are an experiencer on so many different levels, and you're used to any situation, i.e. the lights came up, 5 lights came up, and then the next time you said to your son, quickly get the camera, so then you got the camera, so you're kind of one aware, so you can then totally change your energy mindset. So if something negative is happening to you, just protect yourself, bottle up, protect yourself, and boom it out there, so nothing can get into you.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a way during break if I can get that video to you guys, but I could.
Okay, well, you can speak to Race. We are going to go into a commercial break, and we will be back with Katie shortly. All right, thank you very much, guys, and see you in a bit. Maybe not. I think Race has forgotten about us. Oh, let's just keep chatting then. He's gone to make a cup of tea or anything. He told me to be on it at 25 minutes past, and I'm on it, Race. But anyways, okay, we're going to keep chatting. So I think he's allowing us to talk.
Yeah.
So, well, no, if you can send that to him, do send that to him. But also, so you were saying about the skinwalkers at the Pentagon. You were talking about military. Well, about, I don't know, 8 weeks ago, I want to put it 8 weeks ago, I had an experience outside the house. It was a beautiful night. I put the roof down on the car, laid the car seat back, was just looking up. Stars were all out. All of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed it very, very quickly. And your reaction is very now to, you're on it. I pointed very quickly. Oh, here you go. Race is now saying that we go into a commercial break. So we're going to go to a commercial break, everyone, and see you in a bit.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
Welcome back to The Naked Truth, and my guest today is Katie Paige. Welcome back, Katie. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
You're most welcome. This is our part two. Anyone that hadn't seen part one, it's quite a bit of a giggle. Right. So, because you had read this, I haven't. So this will be on my next list. And obviously that's the mess of my other one, all of my high strangeness. So from an experience point of view, and also from your point of view as an experiencer and a investigator, what the hell is this? It was so very different that I can't put it into any box. It was, like I said, I was in the car, roof was down, beautiful starry night, looking at the stars, and then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye on the left, I noticed it so quickly, and I put my hand straight up to point at it because I wanted it to be aware that I could see it. It was probably about 3 meters away from me. It was just above me. Well, it was above my house. It came from above my house. It followed military precisely the telephone wires. So it was there, and I just went, and I was like, look, and I sort of like shouted as it went past. It was about 2.5 foot black, because it was black grey, because it was dark at night. It's about 10:30 at night. Solid ball. It made no noise at all. Nothing. Now, I've seen orbs, various sizes. I've seen bigger orbs than that come, right towards me, or stationary. But that was a black orb. Well, no, black solid ball. It looked like a black solid ball right above my head, and it just followed intelligently. Because you were talking about could be military. Well, it had, like you said, Katie, there is a vibration with it, right? When you have an experience, there was nothing with this at all. It was absolutely nothing. I was shocked.
Did you have that like Oz effect, this cone of silence with that?
Well,
No.
it was dark. It was warm. I mean, it was silent out there anyway, but no, it wasn't. It didn't have that. Well, the silent effect was the size of this thing, 2.5 foot right above me, making no noise as it went past. What ball flies past you without making a noise?
Right. I've heard of those, but they're big, like silver, like a
I've
dull
seen the silver
gray.
ones.
Yeah, the silver ones. I
Yeah,
have
no,
not heard of a
yeah,
black one, but
no.
definitely black cubes, interestingly enough. I've heard, of course, the black triangles that block things out, but a black sphere, that's really interesting. And I don't know what we have that doesn't make any sound whatsoever.
Exactly.
And if it's something like, did it like dissipate? How did it exit for you? Did it just
So basically it went as for my eyes, I just followed it to the telephone wire to the point where it just started to go out of sight. So it went black, if you know what I mean, into the abyss sort of thing. But it followed it totally in a straight line. And I mean, to the point of I was waiting for the power line for it to do all of that because it was like it was heading for it.
Wow.
And it from right above my house, it came right above me. I didn't even feel anything. I didn't have any sensation with it at all or anything. So if it's military, wow, Christ, then they've upped their game.
Right. It makes you wonder what technologies we do have, and they even touch on it in that book, right? Like,
well, I am going to read it now.
Balls,
I'm definitely going to,
don't assume that they're theirs. I mean, it could be something we have, and even in the 70s, I'm like, so many of these sightings with these strange blacked out helicopters, but you have the sheriff, the undersheriff, and many multiple witnesses saying some of these helicopter sightings were silent. We don't have, I mean, so then, do we have silent helicopters? Do we have a low noise, things that can maybe be silent? But in the 70s, I say no, but now perhaps we do.
Well, we've got those stupid cars, haven't we, that make no noise, that cause accidents. Well, kind of make no noise, but well, it's kind of.
Yeah,
but
right.
I can't. I'm struggling with that one. It took me about a week to think, oh, okay, I'll post this on Facebook to see if anyone else has seen something. I did find a really good video of someone had recorded something very similar, but I just didn't know about that one. Yeah, I'm going to read that book. Right, because you spoke about the plaza balls and the black X ops as well, and and also the boxes as well. Because you didn't you?
Yeah, I saw the box. My sister had an encounter with the box. Many adults had situations with the box, and that's a big question mark for me. What are these things? I know they experienced them at Skinwalker Ranch. I talked about Trey Hudson down south, what they caught on their FLIR camera, and their team that walked in. They had a team of 3 people that walked in, and you couldn't see it with the naked eye, but you could see it on the FLIR camera. You see the team going in, and if you're there in person, the trees are really thin and sparse. It's not like these people just disappeared behind trees and they disappear off, no heat signatures at all. And then you see them, several minutes later come out the other side of the box. And what's sad about that and scary is 2 of the 3 of those people have since passed away in short order.
So we're talking like radiation type of thing, maybe?
Radiation, yeah. And that's frightening. So, it's not always right. It's not always safe. And just recently, since we spoke over Labor Day weekend, I went out to the King Ranch out there in near the San Luis Valley with the Snippy the Horse event in 1967.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Family's legacy. And Dr. Simeon Hine was out there and talking about ball lightning. And I learned a lot about that. And things that have been classified for decades, and that even the effects, even though ball lightning is a split second, the effects of that energy and radiation there can last days. It can be detected. So it makes you wonder, same with at these high strangeness locations, there are certain areas around our planet that have this magical combination of the high energy and magnetism and water and minerals, and that can these effects linger for days, and it's transient. It seems transient in nature, which to me explains a lot, right? Why? Yeah. So it was a fascinating presentation. I encourage anybody out there, like, look up Dr. Simeon Hine and his research on ball lightning, because I think it answers some questions for us. Not all, but some.
Well, we know that
Yeah.
when people have, are struck by lightning, majority of them are then sort of health-wise stuck with, epilepsy for the rest of their life. The fact that you're having so much energy, through your body. But then again, when you're an experiencer, you're having a lot of energy through your body by being around these beings and in these craft and all of the other things that happen.
And not only that, but I think when people work on raising their energetic fields
Vibration,
raising their vibrations through whatever means they choose to do it. There's a lot of different ways you could do that, through meditation and crystals and all, tuning forks and everything like that. And I think as we raise our vibratory states, it makes us more open to maybe these types of phenomenon than when we don't. And I think we touched on that last time too. And I do believe there's something to not only our intention and our expectations, but if we work on raising that field and our vibrations start to get higher, then we're more likely to encounter certain phenomenon in our lives. And you better be ready for it if you're asking for it.
Well, exactly. I think we're just stuck with it. I mean, like, I think we both said it, I love the experiences as crazy as they are. I'm glad that I'm not the boring sod that lives next door. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, I mean that in the nicest, kindest way, but to my neighbors, but you know what I mean? Right. So your book, Crafts, Cattle, Cryptoids and Cover-Ups, is that specifically because of the ranch then that you've written that about, or because of your findings when you've gone off to go and investigate collectively, everywhere else?
Right. It's not completed yet. And I think that's for reasons. I mean,
okay.
I actually started writing it pre-COVID. And it was just going to be a book on basically, the APRA report and very factual and what I found and documents and newspaper articles and that. And then COVID hit. And then Beyond Skinwalker. And then all this other stuff's happened. So I'm like, okay, the universe saw fit to hold it off. So now I can include all this new information. So we're getting close, but it just keeps evolving and evolving. And I'm thankful for that because, we talked about this too. Like there's days where I'm like, I sometimes question, why do I keep going? Why do I keep opening myself up to this? Because I've been going on location a lot with Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. We just went back to Rawlins, Wyoming, to the Carl Higdon case in 1974. Most importantly, it was really interesting. We leave Rawlins, Wyoming. We kind of head down the same route that Carl Higdon. It's a popular, well-known case, Carl Higdon. He was out elk hunting. He leaves, he drives 35, almost 40 miles out of Rawlins, Wyoming into Medicine Bow National Forest. And he has an encounter with an ET who he said was named Aso 1. He shot at this elk, the bullet hits an invisible, again, a box, another box. That's why
and also elk.
An elk,
also
right?
Elk.
And
yeah, okay.
Bullet hits this invisible wall, the shell goes slow motion. The bullet hits and falls to the ground.
I remember the case.
And they float him these food pills, right? And he takes one.
That's right.
And his wife and others that were looking for Carl when he was missing, they witnessed lights in the sky, these orange, blue, green lights. It's a great case. His truck was somewhere in this bog where he didn't park it. He was in the hospital for 2.5 days with amnesia and, didn't recognize his wife, and his eyes were all burnt and his shoulder was hurting. So it's fascinating. And then there's photographs of the shell that was actually turned inside out. There's a photograph of where he saw the box, and you can see on my YouTube channel, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research, I just did a YouTube video about this, and I put the pictures in there. You could see the box outline on the ground and stuff like that. But the reason I wanted to go so badly was I wanted to feel the energy of the location.
Of course. Yeah, you pick it up. Yeah,
and
definitely.
All the drive down there's kind of open range, and I'm like, this feels pretty good, like not too creepy or anything, but you get to where this happened, and it totally changes. It's like being at Rocky Mountain Ranch, and I'm like, okay, so similarities. We have the elk, we have, the area is almost identical. I mean, I don't know what's up with
So
that.
what's the distance away from them? What is the distance away?
Oh, from Medicine Bow
Branches.
to Rocky Mountain Ranch,
Yeah.
a few hundred miles.
It's not a lot, is it really?
Not a lot. Not really.
No, not at all. Cut over a couple of mountains.
Right. Yeah, in the time 1974, and then the 75 to 78 was the height of the Rocky Mountain Ranch stuff. So we're in that kind of window. But I'm like, okay, this has elk, it has box, it has also one in the ETs. What's going on there? It's a really fascinating case. But I don't think it's too late to really go back and do deep dives on these cases, and to go to the areas. You can't really tell unless you go on location and experience.
No. I want to go back to Broadhaven, where the Welsh Triangle. Peter Paget wrote one of the books about one of the families there. But periodically it's happened to quite a few families in that area. So I want to go back and stay there and have a feel for it as well. And I don't think, like you say, even though time has passed, it doesn't make any difference, because it's no different than sort of remote viewing. You just ground yourself and just think and place yourself back there again, and the smells and the sensations and everything can come back. Yeah. So
I don't know about you, but I don't think time is linear, right? We're in that block time. So like remote viewing, you can go forward and backwards.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, you talk about, in politics right now, there's lots of people, out in America, remote viewing a lot of the stuff that's going on. Anyways, let's not talk about politics in America right now. Bless your hearts. Okay, right. So, what is this Mount Wilson that you're talking about then? Yeah.
Well, Mount Wilson is another location now.
Okay. Is this what you're going to go off and do? This is this.
No, I just went there twice. I've been there twice in this last year to Mount Wilson, and where I find this interesting, and I'm sure you know the group, the Aviaries, right?
No.
Right. So there's a group in the United States. Hal Puthoff, Kit Green, Dr. Leo Sprinkle was a part of it. We have Dr. What's his name? Or Russell Targ. So a lot of remote viewers. There's a lot of interesting people. Rick Doty, Bob Bigelow. Okay. So
all right.
Bob Bigelow owned Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the aviary group. All birds, right? Falcon.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had Bob Bigelow, who owned Skinwalker Ranch, and at the same time, a lot of people don't know, but he also owned Mount Wilson Ranch, and a really cool, I guess synchronicity happened at Contact in the Desert in California this year. I was sitting on a panel.
You went to, that's right.
Right, I was sitting on a panel, and Earl Grey Anderson was on the panel, and he was just talking about kind of his mother.
Isn't he lovely?
I love him. He's so wonderful, and he's a talented musician as well. So Earl was talking about his mother, who was blindfolded. She worked for Howard Hughes. She was taken to a remote location, blindfolded, taken down this elevator shaft where there was this large city. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I was just at Mount Wilson Ranch. I know about the Howard Hughes connection at Mount Wilson Ranch, the Bigelow connection, all of that. And all of these dots were connecting for me. So as soon as we get done, I go up to Earl. I'm like, I think I know where your mother was taken. I think it was Mount Wilson Ranch. Howard Hughes, he actually owned Pioche, Nevada. A lot of that area, there's mafia ties, and I'm so interested in pulling and learning more about the Howard Hughes connection. And Jeff McBurney, who owns Mount Wilson Ranch now, he was also on Beyond Skinwalker. They're digging deep, kind of like Oak Island, right? What's underground? Can they find the elevator shaft? I mean, maybe it's old aircraft of Howard Hughes, but there was Howard Hughes's runway right there by Mount Wilson Ranch, and the road just goes directly to his property. So what are all these guys like Bob Bigelow and Kit Green and Hal Puthoff, and why are they there? What are they doing at Skinwalker Ranch? Why are they at Mount Wilson Ranch? And how does that connect to 10, 15 years earlier, the Rocky Mountain Ranch, And I feel like it connects in some way because of the military presence. We know, I know Richard Doty knew about Rocky Mountain Ranch. We know Linda Howe definitely knew about Rocky Mountain Ranch. Dr. Sprinkle did. So these players that were there first. And why these locations? How are they connected? And what were they trying to learn and find out? That's my question. I want to know.
We want to know lots of things.
I want to know.
Well, I don't know. And the thing is, Linda, she's experienced so many different things, but not a lot of them have, though. I don't think, like Richard, that's sort of like first-hand accounts of things that he's talking about a lot of the time. It's not his own experience. So, I mean, but yeah. I don't know. I haven't got the answers, girlfriend. I have not got no answers. I only know what I know, and you only know what you know, and collectively we're all trying to put the pieces together. But it's so for everyone that didn't know, this is it's not just yourself, it is members of your family. It's your mum, it's your sister as well. You've had an encounter in the car with your family as well. Do you want to just quickly go over that, because that was really extraordinary?
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. In talking with my mom, I'm originally from the state of Illinois. My grandparents lived in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And I learned through my mother that my grandfather had a sighting of an oblong-shaped craft over Lake Como, investigated by J. Allen Hynek. And then going back from...
Wasn't he? Wasn't he in the military? That's right.
He was in the Navy. He was also a Mason, which was kind of interesting. But going back and forth from Lake Geneva back to our home in Illinois, in Richmond, Illinois, which is right over the state line, we had an encounter of the same oblong-shaped craft. And it was, and the reason it was like that thing you always talk about over Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner,
soon Thanksgiving, yay!
Do you remember that encounter? And Katie, who was just, a toddler at the time, was like mesmerized by the lines in the road. I was just like, and they're like, snap out of it, snap out of it. Right after that encounter, just hello, it was gone. So what was that about? I have no idea, but I find it interesting that, and you see that often with experiencers too. You see this family history of some unusual things, right?
And military.
And military connection as well. I don't know what it means or why or what, but there it is. So
also, because you were saying about your sister doesn't, she's not as forward as yourself, as in pushing research and things, that's sometimes a good thing and a bad thing, because you can both sort of balance each other out in certain ways. I know that she's had quite scary experiences with you, because I mean there's times that you're in your bedroom that you just put things up against your bedroom door to not let something come in, didn't you?
Right. And I think that's something I don't talk a lot about, or people don't, I don't know why, but the personal toll and that these experiences have on relationships, and that, I mean, my mother was raising 3 girls on her own. She worked at United, so she worked a full-time job, and then she would bowl on her league. She also sang Sweet Adelines, so she was gone a lot. So when my sister was there with us, and she was there present all through the Rocky Mountain Ranch years, she was like my mother to me.
Okay.
She was my protector. And then, as soon as she graduated high school, she moved out to Gillette, Wyoming. So by the time I was 12, my big sister moved, and there was some guilt around that, I think, for her, that she felt like she abandoned me in some kind of ways, especially going through the scary things I did. I no longer had my protector there. And so we've had to talk that out. And then doing little sneak peek here, but for season 3 of Beyond Skinwalker, my sister joins me back on the ranch. And that took a little bit of tugging,
I bet,
for me to convince her to do that. And I think she's really happy she did go back, and it brought up a lot of things for her. But in researching this for as long as I have, it's this process of
clearing.
I
mean, it's probably the best form of therapy for her. She doesn't think of it at the time, obviously, but it's the best form of therapy to be thrown into the situation again, and with an older mind, and with a better scenario of professional people to support her as she wouldn't have had when she was a child growing up. She has, you know, those people to speak to and to work with. But no, I think any trauma, any situation that's quite traumatic, you have to go back to it and just absolutely review it and learn about it and ask the questions why and work it out, and, you know, whether it's be paranormal or any other, you know, experience.
And I think that's a brilliant point you bring up, Bridget, is that for me, and I think that's why Dr. Leo Sprinkle was so important in my life, and the other, knowing that there were adults around that were actually researching that and investigating.
They had adult minds. They had adult minds.
Know that. Yeah. And I was this little girl who was terrified out of my wits and confused and not understanding what was happening. And I think that's why I continue to do what I do, because it is therapy for me. I'm fixing that little girl, and the adults in that situation are helping me through that, you know, because when you're young and you're going through that, you don't have anybody to express that to. Right. No. So
I think for yourself, it's been, you know, with people within the UFO field, you're let's treat, I don't want to say it's like this, let's treat it as a case, your case, right? It's been so heavily orchestrated throughout. The fact that you've documented everything, the fact that Leo was a part of it, the fact that Hynek was a part of it, the fact that Linda Morton Howe was a part of it. My God, you know, let's just keep putting up the names, you know, and the fact that, you know, you've got different people, and then you can now, you know, now you're doing what you do with your research. You can go back and like you said, you interviewed a gentleman that was, you know, that was still, you know, not, you know, that he, what did you say, it was like 92? No, that was your mum that passed away. That was that way. But you know, you interviewed an older gentleman that had these experiences as well. Yeah. So it's, I think you tick all the boxes for them upstairs. She's a great candidate. She's going to be a feisty one. She's going to document everything. And that, haven't they just, you know? And I think you do have to have the proof. I said this to you in part one. You got to have the proof for people to turn around and go, well, hang on a minute. How old were you and where were you? Well, hang on a minute. I can prove that to you. Here's the letters that I got from that address. There's the timestamp that I was there. You know, I've kept absolutely everything as well. Don't know why I did. Thought I was bloody mad at the time, but I now know I wasn't. I just did it for the right reasons.
Right. And for me, you know, I mean, we didn't know it was investigated at the time. It wasn't until I came across Hunt for the Skinwalker that I learned of the 3 PhDs and got the report and on and on and on and on. So to see that is like, okay, right? Now we're going, and then you just keep piling more and more and more. And now for me, really what motivates me is I don't want another young Katie or anybody for that matter to feel like they're alone in what they're experiencing. So if I can be an ear for somebody else that lives in the area or anywhere else that is experiencing these unusual things, then I'm going to listen to them and take them seriously, because so often people that experience these, you know, whether they're paranormal or ET connected or whatever, whoever or whatever we're dealing with, it can make somebody feel very isolated and alone and scared. And that's what's important to me at this, you know, at this stage is, okay, I want to hear what you have to say, document it, and connect it to others so you don't feel that way, because other people have experienced it too.
Yeah, right. We've got 2 minutes left, Katie. Okay. Would you like to say whatever you would like to say? Your new projects that are coming up, the fact that you're going to come back for part 3. No, so what's because last time we spoke, I think you were just about going to go to Contact in the Desert. So what's up and coming, and what are you doing? What, season 3, 4? What I think Race will put it up as well for the show.
Right. Just did another George Noory for Beyond Belief on Gaia, so that was fun to do. But really, what I'm focused on now, and if all your listeners could please help a girl out and go to Rocky Mountain Ranch Research YouTube channel. I'm just, putting out all my adventures out there. I went to, did the Carl Higdon. I'm interviewing people. I'm actually all day today. I was working on a great interview I did with David King of the King family. And I kind of get personal with him on how Snippy the horse impacted his life and his family's life. Because again, that's something we don't talk a lot about. So I'm really working on just going on location. We'll be going out to Trinidad, to the Miller Ranch, again, the Mount Wilson Ranch. So just trying to go on location and taking all you guys with me and putting together these videos and trying to connect dots. And
I'm guilty. I haven't gone to your YouTube channel and I haven't liked and subscribed. So as soon as I get off this, which is nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, I will do that, Katie. All right.
So I appreciate it.
That's all right. We've got a few minutes left. So everybody go to Katie's YouTube channel, and it is called again, Katie?
Rocky Mountain Ranch.
There
Rocky
you go.
Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Paige.
Yeah, like, share, and subscribe, and also you can follow her on her Facebook page. So, Katie, thank you so much again for being with us. It's always wonderful. We are girls that like to chat, which is fabulous. All right, so listen, stay safe over there, everyone in America. Stay safe, Katie. Love speaking to you. Always do. All right, sweetheart. Bye. Bye for now.
Thanks.
Bye.